Thanks for your patience, everyone, with the delay this morning. I know I personally was behind a 3-car accident, so everybody's going to be speaking in late, I'm afraid. But Trey Hicks is our first presenter. I love it. Welcome to 1 Million Cups, everyone. Most of you know the program. I see a few new faces. I'm Chrissa, the lead organizer. We've got several of our organizers. William, Tony's closing the door. Trish, here. I want to thank American Underground, certainly for having us in their beautiful space. Muddy Dog NCID for the coffee. Thank you, Jim. Jim's our coffee man, you know. Exactly right. Uplift Now, our two organizers, Trish and Tony, run their own nonprofit bartering company, but they are managing our meetup group and have been very, very involved in getting this to set more fire under all of us to reignite our enthusiasm. One special announcement for one of our organizers, Brenda, welcomed her son into the world yesterday. So we just got news of that. Yeah, she's got a healthy baby boy, Stone Asher. So I just got that announcement. Imperative Product Operations. I don't see Ricardo here. They sponsor the Cue Ball. Rod Reach Services, Terry Conlon, they work in the background reviewing our presentations. Make sure that they're all stellar quality. I'm sure yours is. Right?
A few updates since then. So
Very good. Very good. Global Training Initiative out of NC State has sponsored our media equipment, the various pieces that we needed to make the live stream happen. Jim's not with us right now. New Entrepreneurs of Wilmington, but he helps on the recruiting side, certainly supports that. Davey Kiki, Legacy Family Services on the email side, and so IP, we support startups and scaling companies from the intellectual property side. So all of that, all of the people who work really hard in the background to make this happen on a daily basis. Thank you, thank you. So with that, Trey, we will welcome you. Trey Hicks, we actually recruited him in the middle of a meeting several weeks ago. I think he had come for the first time. We had to talk to him, convinced him you need to present. So thank you for applying.
Yes, thank you.
And welcome. Trey's got to scoot out here at about probably 9:45. So we're going to make this happen for you.
All right. Thank you. I'm just going to sit this down so I talk loud so everybody can hear me in the back. All right, so good morning. As you said, my name is Trey Hicks. I'm one of the co-founders of Recruitify, and I think that before I get started, it's probably the most important thing to talk about why we're doing this, I guess part of why we're doing this. We want to challenge the way that information is distributed and consumed by people in the amateur athletics industry. Today, right now, it's very chaotic and very disjointed to gather all that information and then also to share. So when we talk about the problem here specifically in basketball, there's a lot of problems with the industry today because there's a lot of disjointedness. And if you look at these three circles here, you'll notice that they're not connected. And so that's going to be the key word inside of this industry is a lack of connectivity and a lack of the ability for everybody to share this information as they try to consume it. And so we'll talk about these three circles here and who those people are so that you'll become a little more informed about who these people are in the industry. So when we talk about the event director and the event management, this guy or lady is going to be the person responsible for actually putting on the event. They're going to organize the event, they're going to collect the money, and they're also going to host the teams and all of the college coaches who are recruiting the athletes. And then when we talk about the clubs, they're going to do a few things such as hosting the tryouts to get their team built, manage their teams, collect money, and then they're going to go to these events and start participating so that college coaches can identify their athletes and then start recruiting them. And so the athletes are then going to also play in those events, they're going to attend those events, they're going to pay their team dues, and then they're also going to manage their information so that all of this information can flow to the college coaches. And then the college coaches are going to be at the end of the spectrum here to where they can actually get all of this information so they can do the recruiting process and figure out who it is that they want to actually recruit. And so when I talk about them, what we're talking about is this actual book here that they get from the beginning of these three processes. So college coaches today, status quo, book, all this paper in here is going to have all of that information from the rosters, schedule from the event director who is going to put on the event. And so what we want to do is get rid of that, and then we can actually start helping them become more efficient by then actually having all of those events inside of their phone. So instead of those paper books, they can start building up this library of those packets. And so what we've done is we've built up this solution here that allows all of those processes to be done in one single application. So when we talk about those club and athletes, the first three processes are theirs, and so that is the first process of this large process. And so what happens here is they do all of their managing of the team and their athletes, and then they can go to the events as the event director registers and does all the scheduling, and then the college coaches can do their piece of recruiting and identifying who it is that they need to target. And so a little bit about how it works. So the first thing is for the event director to actually create this event. And so he's going to be the guy who really puts everybody together. And so that's going to happen in step one. And then in step two, you're going to have the clubs managing all of their information so that they can figure out who's going to be on their teams. We're talking 5, 10, 20. Some of these organizations have over 50 teams. So they have to manage all of this information and then go to these events, and then they're going to start paying for those events that the event director puts on. Then the college coaches are going to come in at step 3, and they're going to pay, and then they're going to attend those events so that they can get all of that information and understand who it is that is at that event so that they can start recruiting. And so what happens in our system is the event is this replenisher of all of this information. So if we target the event director who puts on the event, all of this information can come to us very easily from the teams and then from the college coaches who are in this revenue stream for us. And so the market here today, amateur athletics is about a $15 billion industry. We're targeting specifically basketball, which is about 10 million athletes. Basketball is going to be the most popular sport in amateur athletics, with again 10 million athletes participating from the ages of 6 to 17. So our competition today, what they're doing is they're staying in their circle, so to speak. And what that means is that there's not a lot of integration inside of these 3 different processes that take place in the industry. And so what we want to do is we actually want to connect all 3 of those things together, not partner with any of these guys, but connect all 3 of these processes together. And the reason for that is because these 3 processes depend upon each other. So the event director, such as the event management software, he needs to get his information to and from the club, and then the club needs to get their information to and from the prospect management software, which is the college coaches, where they keep all of that information. And so how we're different is that we want to target the event directors and build relationships with them to provide them with as much value as we can. And so once we start doing that and we focus on the single sport, we can then start going through the industry very quickly and start targeting those very specific teams that can help us start building up the software to allow us to get to that athlete and team information. And so also part of that is being this one-stop shop that allows us to have all of these things done inside of our application, that we don't need to depend on other applications to help us do that. So we do over 100 events across the country right now. Again, these people over here on the left are these event directors that we talk about. So those are the guys who are the head of the snakes. And so what we do is we target them so that we can start getting that other information so that we can start getting these 15,000 teams, these college coaches to use the application and start building out our data set of all of these different college coaches and athletes and also these teams. So my business partner and I have known each other for about 25 years. Both he and I graduated from High Point, and so we started this about 4 years ago. And so we've built up a great team that can help us navigate through this space and help us grow this product and get into more events and start generating more of this monthly revenue and start building up this business. And so this is the biggest question and reason why we're here today, is to raise capital so that we can scale and efficiently scale into more events and get more teams and get more college coaches using the application and increase that adoption. And so revenue model today is going to be at the individual registration, team registration, and then also allowing these programs to generate and collect their money for their team dues. And then also from the college coach package, which is that book right there. Again, these are all things that we're doing today and already have in the marketplace that can allow us to generate revenue. However, we want to get into a more monthly revenue stream and monthly revenue based business, because that helps us a lot with this business being more seasonal as it relates to the events going on in March, April, May, June, and July. And so what we want to do is we want to focus, again, these two things down there in the bottom, the apparel and the club payments, those are things that we already do. And so today we're in the middle right there where we generate about $80 from each team. $7.50 from a registration, and then $7.50 from each athlete. You multiply that by 10, that gets you $75. And so what we want to do is we actually want to scale in and target more of the basketball teams and provide them with a communication tool that allows us to generate more monthly revenue stream, so that we can target all of those teams with these three core products here, and we can start getting into a more annualized revenue of about $225 per team. And if you look at the market, there's over 1 million teams just in basketball that we can service on that end. And so as we start getting into more of these events and start getting into that more monthly revenue, we can start growing this revenue base and start targeting more teams, more events, more college coaches. And as we do that, we can start building up this case to where you start becoming even more attractive than a Be Recruited and a Max Prepser just focused on the multimedia and then the sort of the recruit management aspect of that. So what we want to do is become this holistic platform that allows us to do all three of these things that we talked about as it relates to the event management, as it relates to the prospect management, and then the club management as well. So with that, I thank you very much for your time, and if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer those right now.
I actually have one. I'll start off. I was confused. Talk to us about the name of the company, because when I first heard it, my mind immediately went to recruiting, like HR, staffing, recruiting.
Sure.
So that threw me off once I learned about the company. And is it recruit the various team members and unify them? I mean, is that kind of how you came at this, or?
Yeah, it was two things. It was recruiting and then simplifying. And so the whole thing is that the end game of doing all of this is to get recruited to play college athletics. And so that's where the recruiting of this happens. And then as we started working backwards and learning more about the industry, there were these other things that took place inside of the application that allows us to do those other things.
I have a question about your end game. So I was hoping you would lead with that, because I was kind of confused starting out.
Sure.
Right? So knowing who it's for and what it's for is super helpful right at the very beginning.
Yep.
So that sounds like your market is to the player, like the amateur player who wants to be recruited. So it's a little bit unclear to me who the primary customer is. Is it the coach? Is it the event venue people? Is it the player? Like, so can you like help us understand how that, like, who's the primary customer?
Yes, absolutely. So when we look at this here, the event director is the customer. However, whenever you get into him, like, we go to these events and they have 5,000 people there, moms, dad, college coaches, team coaches, athletes, everybody. So he's going to be the guy that drives all of this stuff. So we go after him, and then inside of there, we can do dozens of different things, such as, media, journalism, team management, all this different stuff. So he's the customer. But you have other customers in there that you can sell to, because it's this entire ecosystem. And so, again, it's very difficult to explain that in 10 minutes, and the entire thing it takes about an hour to 2 hours for somebody to sit down and look at the software and see how it all comes together. But he's the guy, and so he or she is the guy. And so we offer them the software, they sign up, create the event, and then everybody else who does all of their business processes inside of this system, it happens in our system. And so we can then start building up this entire ecosystem for really everybody. So that's why we talk about this holistically, and talk about the event director, the club, the athlete, and then the college coach. Because, again, the product is not just for one person, but the event director is the guy who gets this whole thing started. And so that's how this whole thing is tied together.
And Trey, wouldn't it equally be as true that it's not just people, it's also the timing in which they might have to use the system?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you talk about timing here, the event director, we're going after more of those guys right now. And so it's literally like a basketball season. You have an on season, you have an off season. So in the off season, we go after more of these event directors, and so we get ready for the season in February and March. And then from there, there's a process for the clubs that takes place in December, January, February, of getting all of that information together, figuring out who's playing on the teams, what they're doing, and then collecting all the money so that then they can go play in these events. And then the college coaches, after their season's done in March and April, they'll start going to these recruiting events and doing their process. And so they'll have a process of really about 6 to 8 months of figuring out who it is that they want to recruit and figuring out all of the logistics for their recruiting process.
Question about the slide, this person, because there's a line missing, I think, because I had 2 kids that went through this. Between college coach and club, there's the NCAA clearinghouse. How are you guys making sure that these athletes are registered with that the coaches are not contacting the athletes in an appropriate way? I mean, how do you weigh that?
Yeah, so the clearinghouse, so this club right here, let's be honest, there's only a small percentage of athletes who actually do go to play college sports. So we don't care about, we care about the whole industry. And so the kids who are going to go to the clearinghouse and they're going to go play D1, that's an entirely different process that has to take place outside of our scope. And so that's more of something that these consultants will help people with in terms of navigating that channel. So again, we're focused on every single athlete. We don't care if you're going to Division I, Division II, Division III. That's a responsibility that really takes place outside of our scope. So that would be the first question. The second question, as it relates to the college coaches communicating with the athletes and all of that, they have a set of guidelines where they can and can't communicate. We want to actually, because again, at the event, you know, they all interact there, but then there's also the college coach to the club, like you just said. And so with the communication piece that we do want to integrate, that's an avenue where we can connect the college coaches with the athletes. And again, there's softwares out there that do that right now that are competitors, Front Rush and Jump Forward and those. And really it's all about timing. So there's certain periods of the year where a college coach can't communicate with anybody. And so what you can do is you can eliminate that ability for being able for a college coach to communicate with an athlete directly in your system. But as far as then, like, you know, text messaging and all of that, I know the NCAA has become very liberal with that and eliminated that headache so that it's like, you know, why can't you send a text message to an athlete? Now, there are certain limitations of the age, and I know that it's below, I believe, 8th grade where a college coach can't communicate with an athlete. So those type of things your software can actually help and prevent from happening. So again, we're focused on the entire club and all of that. Yes?
So you say you came out of High Point University, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So from what I understand, that's a real entrepreneurial, I mean, they're really, people like you are going there to do this kind of thing.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of, and I think the biggest problem with High Point is that, you know, a lot of the money is being spent inside of the school with infrastructure dollars, which is great. And so our community there, like at Duke, at Carolina, and NC State, as far as the investment community goes, it's not really there. There's not much of one there at all in terms of where you can go talk with a lot of these people who are you know, interested in sport and all of that. We're going down 2 avenues of really the traditional angel investor, and then also going down the route of talking with ex-NBA athletes and ex-athletes who've gone through this entire process. So we're wanting to go sort of away from your traditional everyday guy, because it takes a very specific person to understand what's going on in this space and really the true value in it and how big it is. So, you know, you can talk to 50 people, but there may only be 2 or 3 that are interested, and then also of those, how many get what you're really doing. So that's been a big challenge for us, and we're actually leveraging our connection with Tubby Smith, who's our coach at High Point now, to help us with some of those people that he knows in his network. And so we're navigating that channel and talking with those people. Yes?
Yeah, so I'm just curious, what exactly is the sweet spot for the app? I mean, how big does the tournament have to be? Are there specific age ranges? Because, you know, I heard you talk 6 to 17, and I heard you mention that there were, you know, players who want to get recruited, et cetera, et cetera. This is a big world. The second where do they fall into? You know, do you have relationships with one or the other? Have they impacted you? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the first question was about just the overall size of the market, who we're targeting as far as the specifics. That's what the question was, right?
Well, it's really, what's the sweet spot? If you were to say, this is our ideal tournament.
Yep. The
what
ideal,
is it?
the ideal tournament's going to be 100 teams, but there's tournaments that have 50 teams, 100 teams, all the way up to 500. And so this gentleman right here, Boo Williams out of Virginia, is probably going to be the biggest name in this space. And so we're actually going to do we did a beta launch with his tournament this year. We're going to do his tournament registration and scheduling and all of that next year. And so what he has is 400 teams, 400 college coaches. For us, it's all about getting as many events as possible. So a 50-team event is great because guess what? That's going to be 500 athletes, and that's going to be on the other slide where those clubs were. We can generate revenue from them again. So as far as the size of the tournament goes, we're not targeting 10-team events. We're targeting those 100-plus team events. That's going to be the sweet spot. As far as the Nikes and the Adidas, you're absolutely right. We're actually trying to get integrated and partner with Adidas. We have a meeting next week with the lady who runs their Adidas gauntlet. And so we want to get in there because, again, like you said, those Adidas, Nike, and Under Armour platforms, those are where a lot of obviously the premier athletes play and college coaches attend. However, they're going to be smaller in terms of the scale of teams, which is fine, but you can also go to those and target the college coaches who are ranked on the right side, who go to all of those events and who are the big-time tournaments. But we're also partnered with All Iowa Attack, who's a Nike team, All Ohio Basketball, they're a Nike-affiliated team. And so those teams are customers of ours who have also Nike teams, but then also participate at these Nike and Adidas and these shoe company-affiliated events.
Follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the teams that you have on this roster. So I don't necessarily, I see ACC, SEC, smaller school, I see, you know, basketball power. So is there a rhyme or reason to where you've been able to get traction or an entry point within one of these schools?
So this is going to be totally random because when we go to these events, you can target, so we have over 1,200 college coaches from D1, D2, D3. So these are just the big guys that people know. If I were to put up a slide of some of these smaller D3s and D2s, nobody would know who in the world they are, and then they're just a nobody. However, when we go to any of these events, you're going to get D1, D2, D3 college coaches. So you're going to get the entire spectrum of people with a lot of money and then people with no money at all. So again, we can't dictate that. As long as we go to the events, we know that there's going to be college coaches there. And so when there's college coaches there, that means that we can sell our service to those D1, D2, D3 programs because for us, any college coach is as good as the other per se.
Well, let me ask a question slightly differently.
Yeah.
If I think about UNC staff, and I know some of the guys over there,
Yeah.
You know, are you looking for the tech-savvy assistant coach? Are you looking for a head coach's specific position? What is it that makes one of these universities or this staff or the administration more likely to sign up for this, as opposed to say, come back to me in 3 years when this is more staff?
Yep. So we're targeting the assistants. So Roy Williams, Coach K, Bayheim, all those guys, they're going to be told where to go. They're never going to use this like an assistant coach. So assistant coaches, Hubert Davis, Coach Willerford from UVA, those type of guys are going to be the guys using the application, and then also the younger guys. The reason why they use the app is because they can't get this paper before the event. So what our app and software allows them to do is they can do this, they can do their process of figuring out who it is they need to go watch and where they need to be 3 or 4 or 5 days before the event starts. And so that's the value for us to the college program, is to say, look, you can go ahead and figure out where you're going to go so that you can tell Roy Williams, hey, you need to be here on Tuesday, and you're going to go to this event on Friday. So the value for them is productivity and efficiency. And then what they can do is they can take, which I just got an email yesterday from Holy Cross, they were saying that they want to take this information, but they want it in a digital form. And so our software has all of this information in a digital form that allows them to target and market all of these athletes in this book. They can't do that with paper. And And so what we can do with our software is allow them to market to all of those athletes that they start accumulating in this software for their team camp, for their skill camp, or whatever it is. So the value for them is going to be efficiency and productivity for those assistant coaches.
Okay, to keep you on your schedule, we have time for one more question, but it can't be a long one.
No, I'll let somebody else take it. I
Anybody
can
else?
ask Trey anytime.
Nobody else? All right, Bob, you got it, but
So to that same point, does the technology allow for a filter for any of these coaches? Say like, University of Kentucky, last year my defense was terrible. So I want to recruit kids now who are good with steals and blocks. So I'm going to put a filter in to say, all right, show me all the players who are scoring well at the stats that they've been building up in those categories.
Yeah, I think that there's a layer before that. I think there's a misconception that, it's all about, who can score the most, who can do all of these things. And that's why these college coaches have to go to these events, is because they can't just rely on the quantitative analytics. They have to go actually see these kids. They have to say, okay, just because he's a great defender, how does he act on the court? Is he a nutcase? Is he crazy? Does he play well with his team? So those type of things can help, sort of peel back that layer. But at the end of the day, it's all about going to these actual events and seeing these players and building those relationships. And so that's what our software can help with. However, it can't answer all of those
It's not the full answer, but
It's not the full answer, no.
it leads them somewhere that they can find what they're looking for.
Yeah, and that's why the software is valuable for the Division II and Division III guys who have to recruit geographically. So you got a D3 like Averett University up in Danville. Those type of programs can't recruit cross-country in California. So what they do is they look in this book and they say, show me all of the players who live in Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, and I got to target those athletes. So when I'm at these events, I don't care about a game who has a team from California and Kentucky. They're never going to come play at Averett. And so what those college coaches do at Averett is, if they don't have that, they have to look through this book and cross out every single team that doesn't match Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, because it's irrelevant to them. And so what our software can do is filter out and say, look, in all of these games that are going on, who in here is from North Carolina, Virginia, and South Carolina, and then tell me who those teams are. And then from there, they can then start saying, okay, well, I just need to go watch these games, because why in the world am I going to go watch a game that has two teams from California? I'm never going to recruit those kids at all. So the analytics and all of that is huge and powerful, but it doesn't paint the entire story.
all right, Trey, very, very well done.
Yes, thank you.
Very